Hello and welcome to the Extended Greg YouTube channel. I'm Greg, and on today's show we're going to be building a video playback engine. And pretty much what this is it's going to be a Raspberry Pi 5, we're going to have VLC installed, and we're going to be able to use web control to be able to provide seamless and very resilient type of playback mechanism for any type of video that you could possibly want. VLC is very compatible in terms of its ability to be able to play back many formats. And pretty much we're going to make it so you can control it from another machine and it will only display the full screen video. You can seek through the video, play, pause, and also choose the next video and actually implement a playlist. So it's really good for being able to do, film festivals, playing videos in a house of worship, or any other kind of application where you can think of. I'm going to be using it for the YouTube channel here, so it's a bit meta, but it's going to be a lot of fun as we build it today. I've already implemented this once, so I have a pretty good idea that it is going to work. So stick around. We're going to go ahead and implement it. So stay tuned. We're about to get extended. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is, I know some people hate the fact that we're doing a Linux video and it's I'm starting on Windows, but short form is that we're going to just quickly image. We're doing this end to end. So we're going to install the 64-bit version of Alpine Linux, which is the version 3.19.0. And we're going to actually image our drive. And the two things that we're going to be using today, we're using a USB thumb drive in order to actually store all of our videos. And then we just have our bootable SD card. We could do this on a single SD card if we had a U3 SD card, which would have enough bandwidth and enough transfer rate to be able to play back the videos. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those. I thought I did, but turns out I don't. So realistically, we're going to use the USB. It's going to be the same thing. But if you did actually want to do this with just that single device, you could potentially do it as long as it was fast enough to be able to support the bit rates that you were actually trying to play back. So let's plug this in here. It's not going to do anything because in this particular case I have it wiped, but we're just going to go into disk management directly. So format, hard disks, and partitions. This opens up the actual administrative console that allows us to be able to create the actual partition table and everything else like that. So what I've done is I've actually gone through and used the command line in Windows, selected the disk, and then typed clean. And pretty much that removes everything off of the disk. So it is a blank disk. So we're just going to go in, create a simple volume. It's going to be FAT32 in this particular case because it's only 32 gigs. All right, and we will call this playback. Quick formatting is just fine. Finish. And it should open it once it actually finishes. And there it is. And there's Nalo right on cue. So the next thing that we're going to do, you want to say hello? You're so good. She loves neck scratches. You're getting fur all over everything already. You want to sit over here? So she's going to hang out and be visible on in the corner there, I guess. So pretty much what we're going to do next is we're going to actually go in and download our version that we actually want. So it's got to be the 64-bit version of Alpine Linux because realistically the Raspberry Pi 5 doesn't run anything else. So let's do Alpine Linux download will take us to downloads. We're going to do Raspberry Pi. And we're going to do arch64. We're going to do the tar.gz version. So we will arbitrarily save that to downloads. And we'll just go ahead and open it. And we'll close out of the web. 2 dots, we're going to do extract to, and we're going to expand it to the SD card that we just have. So it's going to go ahead and process that. And pretty much what we're going to be installing are just VLC. We're going to be using Alpine Desktop, the desktop installation, which is XFCE is actually the name of the desktop environment. But we're going to be using Setup Desktop in Alpine Linux to actually get that set up. So that way we actually have somewhere for VLC to display. It needs an initialized display using Xorg in order to be able to output any video, but it will take care of all the scaling, everything else like that, and it has the integrated web interface already, so we don't have to build that from scratch. We're also going to add a few other things, like, for example, VLC. We're going to add audio support, which also just works generally if you're just building a desktop, to be able to have audio support there as well. And then, we'll add a Samba share, so that way we can add and remove files. So pretty much that's the gist of it. And the idea is that the operating system and everything else like that is still read-only. It's going to automatically log into a user, and then from there, it will just start the player immediately. So we'll be able to access it, and we're going to add a few other options in order to be able to make it a little more, I would say, conducive to using it during a presentation or production. So everything's created here. We're going to eject the drive. Excellent. And I'm going to put this inside of the Raspberry Pi and power it up. And let's switch over to the Pi 5. We see it booting up right now. And let's go through the setup process. So we're going to do the regular setup Alpine as we would normally. They changed a few things for 3.19 that makes setup Alpine look a little bit different. So we're just going to use root, and we'll do setup Alpine. US keyboard again. I mistyped something. I think I put a space. And then we're just going to call it Playback for our host name. We'll initialize hardwired Ethernet because that's how we're going to access it in this case. If it was wireless LAN, you could do that too. So we're going to let it do its thing. Right, and it has its IP address. We're going to give it a password, very secure. And then we're going to do US Eastern for me. It's very early in the morning. No proxy. We're going to use Crony for NTP, but I will have to update the config file for my particular situation, but generally speaking, out of the box, it should work fine for you. It's going to try and synchronize initially. Right, had an issue locating this, so we're going to skip this. So we'll come back to that. We're not going to set up a user right now. Do we want SSH? We do. We want OpenSSH. Now, had we set up a user, it wouldn't give us this option here. So this makes it easier so we don't have to modify the SSH config. So we're just going to type yes here because we do want just SSH access should we need it. It makes it easier to copy files, etc. No SSH key, but you could install that if you wanted it to be a bit more secure. We're not going to install it as a to the disk, but we're going to keep it so we can do an embedded system. Defaults here, and we're done. So let's fix that clock issue, because if we look at it now, it says the date is December 31st, and as it turns out, it's past that. So let's do vi/etc crony.conf. And let's do this. And let's do it again. Excellent. And we'll restart Crony just so it synchronizes, and we'll check the date again, and it should be today's date. Perfect, it is January 14th. All right, so now we're going to rerun the APK repository. So we're going to do setup APK repos. Now it's able to find it. We're going to enable community repositories using the C key, and then we're going to use the default of 1 in this particular case to use the Alpine Linux managed CDN. If we want to choose a different mirror for a different country, things like that, better performance, we could do that, but in this particular case, that one works fine for me. So we're going to do APK update to verify. We see 22,000 packages. Perfect. So we're going to do lbu commit-d and at least write it out initially. And then we're going to add a few packages really quick. And this is going to take up about 1 gig of RAM space. So I'm using the 8 GB Raspberry Pi 5 for this particular application, which should give us 4 GB of usable space on our root, as well as 4 GB of actual RAM for VLC to be able to use. So we're going to add VLC. We're going to add VNC. So we're going to do X11. Actually, we'll wait on that. Let's just do VNC for now. Sorry. Okay, and this takes up the majority of the space, in addition to the desktop that we're about to set up as well. And VLC is nice because it has a lot of features and capability. It's heavier weight than FFmpeg, but it actually has some basis on the code for FFmpeg. They share a lot of common code. So at the end of the day, it's actually really nice, but it's got a lot of options. It's been around for a long time. So let's actually set up our desktop. And it's really easy because we just do setup desktop. And this will give us a graphical desktop environment that we're able to use to be able to output our VLC output. So do we want to set up a user? And the answer is yes, we do. So we want to call it Playback. Full name for Playback. We'll give it a very secure password. And it doesn't really matter what it is. We're really only going to use this to log in, so we're not running in a privileged environment. VLC does not let you run it as root. You actually have to compile it with the ability to run as root. So it gets very, very weird. All right, and what we're going to use here, for which desktop environment do we want to use? We want to use XFCE. And the reason is I just like the way that we can hide everything and make it into a more conducive environment for when the videos aren't playing. So when it first starts up, for example, it will actually show the desktop. It will queue the first video, but it won't actually output it until we decide to start playing it. So because of that, making the desktop into something that's default, or let's say VLC crashes because of a corrupt media file, we want to make sure that it's something that's not going to take the user out of it. Otherwise, we could just use any regular computer. But the idea is that we don't want the play controls to be displayed. And we also don't want it to, seem like it's just a computer. So now that we've added that user, let's add some audio. So we're going to do APK add ALSA. And then we're going to add pulse audio. Actually, I'll go through it individually. So we're going to do ALSA. All right, so we're going to do ALSA utils. And that will allow us to get a play, a record, etc. So we can look at our devices. It'll also install the base of ALSA as well. So if we actually do APK search ALSA, there's actually quite a few packages that we can install. And we installed ALSA utils already. Another one is we can actually do So we could do ALSA plugins pulse, which actually gives us the ability to be able to control the volume from within the UI. as well as some other things. But we're actually going to be using the Pulse Audio plugin in order to be able to do that. So what this is installed is it's installed the actual executable, but it also installed a init file. So we're going to do rc update add alsa default. All right, so now it will automatically start on system boot, and that way we can have our audio output ready to go. It also gives us alsa mixer. And in this case, it cannot find the sound card because we don't have it enabled in our user config file because this is a Raspberry Pi. So let's LBU commit this, and let's actually modify that right now. So we're going to do mount -o remount rw / media mmc blk 0p1. Hit enter. That allows us to now read and write from our SD card. And we're going to do vi / media mmc blk 0p1 user cfg.txt. All right, now we're going to be switching back and forth just because I want to look this up and make sure that it is actually what commands we want it to have. So we're going to switch back over here. Let's go and search. And let's search for Alpine Linux user cfg.txt Raspberry Pi. And let's see what we can do here. No, I don't like that. There we go. So I'm going to do DT param examples. All right, and actually in the default from Google, it actually gives us the DT param audio on. So let's actually put that into our file. All right, so we're going to hit I. There's no special shebang or anything else like that we have to add to this. It's just going to be the file itself. So we're going to do DT param equals audio equals on. All right, and that will give us our actual audio output. So we'll escape, WQ. So now it's there. Next time we reboot, the audio device will be enabled. So let's actually go ahead and do that. We have everything else saved, but something that we actually need to make sure that we add to LBU, because so far we've just added packages, so it's not going to be an issue when it actually reboots. All of that will be preserved. And of course, the only thing we modified outside of some stuff in the etc folder via those the configuration that we did in setup Alpine set up Alpine and the other is pretty much on our SD card, so that's going to be preserved by default. But we created a user called Playback. Okay, so if we actually look ls/home, we see we have a Playback folder. If we don't actually add that to LBU, those files will be lost. And if we actually do ls-l -la, Playback, we see that there's already a couple of files in there. So realistically, we want to make sure that that's preserved. And trying to see, looks like 2 additional folders. What is that? Oh. Okay. So it's just dot and dot dot. That's fine. So pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to add that folder. So we're going to do LBU add /media, just / home playback. All right, and we're going to get rid of the slash at the end, just so it knows that we want to save that whole folder. There's nothing in there right now, but we just want to make sure that that's preserved. So we'll do lbu commit -d. And let's reboot. That'll give us our audio device. We may need to do additional things with graphics, things of that nature as well. But we can also do that within the GUI once it actually loads. When it comes back, it's going to load to our actual our desktop login. Now, we can do this all through the desktop login as well, but realistically, we're going to actually go over and use SSH to do the rest of the configuration, just because it's going to free us up so that way we can go back and forth and restart for auto login, because we definitely want to set that up first. But we'll see the first time that it actually loads XFCE here, and we could log in using Playback. Assuming it actually loads. Let's see. It's taking a hot second. Wait for it. That is one exciting blinking light. Let's see. Oh, that's gonna be a tough name to pronounce, but I see somebody said thanks. Abodraman. So thank you for saying thanks. I appreciate you chatting and also watching. So, but let's see if we can get this going. So let's actually go over to the Windows machine, because we did see that it loaded the network and it should have loaded SSH already. So it doesn't actually matter that we don't see it logging in as of yet. So let's go, let me use the right mouse. We'll open this up and we're going to do 192.168.15.124 is what I believe it said. We're going to log in as root because we did enable that earlier. All right, and we logged in and we're on the Playback machine. So I'm just going to make this full screen. Also should make it easier to read, so just slightly bigger font size. So pretty much what we're going to do from here is, let's make sure that we have everything set up to go. So let's start Alpine first. Or excuse me, start ALSA. Already started. Let's just restart it just to make sure that it's not erroring. And what it'll do is it'll actually store the mixer levels, and so once you actually get it set, it should actually go. But let's see what it says. So ALSA control actually looks like it's having an issue, and that may be part of the reason why it's hanging. So since it didn't have it before, let's actually remove ALSA and reinstall it. So we'll do apk-del ALSA. Utils, excuse me. And let's put it back in. All right, let's try a mixer. Oh, it still says it can't find card 0. So let's look this up. So this is the actual Raspberry Pi wiki for Alpine Linux. It's based on earlier versions, but a lot of the stuff still translates just because of the way that they've implemented backwards compatibility. So one of the things is DT overlay, frame buffers. It says to install the Mesa driver, Gallium. So we can do that as well. So let's do apk add Mesa driver Gallium. All right, looks like that's already installed as part of desktop. right? Goes into clocks, things of that nature. Formatting external drives. Let's see. Net booting with Pi 4. And then the rest. So it's the only thing we don't have that's really in this list is our DT param. Where is it? DT overlay, VC4 KMS V3D to enable the V3D driver. And since our audio is actually coming out of our HDMI, it's possible it may actually need this. So because we're in SSH, we can copy and paste this. So let's go over here. Let's do mount -O remount, comma RW, and then we'll do /media /mmcblk0p1. And let's do vi /media mmcblk1, and we'll do user cfg.txt. So over here we have the DT param audio on, and I'm going to double check the spelling on that and just make sure that we do in fact have that as the expected spelling. So DT param audio equals on. DT param audio equals on. So that is correct. Excellent. So going on from there, perfect. Okay. So let's leave that as is. WQ that. And just so you know, if you want to actually look, it's ls/dev/snd. And that would actually show us if we had a sound device. In this case, it looks like it's just a timer. So that's actually not what we want. We could also look at, sys also has some options as well. I don't remember the tree off the top of my head for that. So let's do lbu commit-d, even though we really didn't change anything. Let's reboot again. So let's switch over to 3, see what it's doing. And I haven't done this on the Raspberry Pi 5 yet, so this is first introduction for that, but I have done it on Alpine Linux. So we could technically just load in what I loaded, but I don't find, where's the fun in that? Plus there's a few changes that we have to make in terms of the interoperability with Raspberry Pi 5 as it is. So we don't necessarily want to just do a copy and paste in this particular regard. I don't think it says portable because of drivers in particular. So it's still coming up just to the blinking light, and let's see if we can just exit out of it. And it does not let us, but we might need to actually just go in and make sure light DM is started, because I'm curious about that. So we'll restart our session here. Let's do /etc/initd light DM. And it says it wasn't started. Let's go back over to 3 and see what it says. Looks like it's still not going. If we come back over to the computer, we can actually type start X. All right, it says giving up, so there's obviously some kind of configuration issue here. Oh, it says no screens are found. So it's possible that it actually doesn't detect that we have a screen. So we'll have to just do setup DEVD. And then in this particular case, we want to do udev. All right, and then scan hardware to populate. We do want to do that, so we're going to do yes. All right, and let's just try this again. because I have a feeling that's the reason why it's not actually loading the screen. And it says no screens found. Let's do ls/dev. So we have frame buffer 0 here. Looking through it, we do have video devices, but those are actually, looks like encoders and decoders. And then... yeah, it doesn't look like it's actually doing it. And this also, again, could be an issue with the 64-bit version of Alpine Linux. The other version I did it on was on Intel, and that one had its own challenges. But realistically, let's see what we could do here. So let's look for ABK search Mesa. This should give us all of the Mesa options. Let's see if there's anything for Raspberry Pi that we can do. Actually, we should just search for Pi. And we may need to install the Raspberry Pi. So we see userland, dev, libs, udev. Bum, bum, bum. We have the lib camera, Raspberry Pi, bootloader. And we're not having issues with the bootloader, but we are having issues with userland. So we could try and install that and just see exactly what comes up with. There we go. So it installed 2 of the sub-packages as well. So let's try start X again, see what we get. Still says no screens. So let's just search it. So Raspberry Pi. And this is for a different OS, but it's good to know. Let's look at something really quick here. So we have the .xauthority file, which is what we want, because that's actually going to use that's going to have our handle to be able to do this. It's also possible that it could be conflicting with the existing X session. So let's just do ls/etc/initd/ and see what we got. We can do /etc/initd lightdm. Stop. Okay. Let's look for our other. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So lightdm is actually what should actually come up to start our initial Xorg process. Let's make sure also dbus is actually started. So we'll do /etc/initd dbus start. Already been started. Let's just do a restart on that. Okay. Let's do ALSA as well, because we do know we need that. Has nothing to do with the screen, but it's just nice to have. Oh, and that's not getting any hardware either. And I'm curious if this may be an issue with the actual implementation on Pi. We may need to switch Pis. So let's see. Tempting. Let's do VI. Actually, we're gonna stop this. Let's do setup DEVD again and just rescan. Right, we're gonna do udev. Let's rescan and let's see what we get. Start X. Still says no screens found. Bus safe 2835, which is Pi 5. Compat else is 0. Enable HDMI 1. So it's showing us a lot of the details relating to how it's actually booting, because that's the kernel command line. So that's actually how we got into the OS. Let's see. Log file. System config directory we can also go into. Let's try doing that. Alright, we see that there's 2 here. There's a lib input, which is actually for keyboard and mouse. There's quirks. Let's just take a look at that really quick. Mainly to do with input classes, nothing else. Is getting fur everywhere. So let's see. I'm gonna exit out of this, and let's actually look at the base config, which is a directory higher. And actually, it just might be an etc. Spelling it correctly. X11. Right. We have Exinit RC. Let's see what we got here. So a lot of these will all base down to pretty much whatever you set it to do, it will do. Through the configuration files that are presented in the system. There's not a lot of magic in terms of how it's getting its settings, but they do tend to bury them in places that are very difficult to be able to find. So, you know, doesn't make life easy, but it is something where it is totally manageable. An example, let's try a light DM. Oops. Because there's a second light DM option, so it couldn't complete. This has to do with our seat configuration and also our auto login. And it may be because we don't have this set to start on boot as well. Because this also configures the Xorg session before it actually passes it to the actual OS. So, just for fun, let's actually configure this part now, because we do know we will need this, and we can just save this as part of it. So we're going to do playback as the user. We're going to keep our timeout as 0, and pretty much up here, user session default. And there is one more. Actually, I'm going to look it up. I got a reference system here. All right. So user session. We don't want to be default. We want to be XFCE. Just because that's what we're using. And session wrapper, we want LightDM session. So let's just do those 4 options. And then we're also going to add the auto login group to our playback user. So we're going to do add group, playback, auto login. Unknown group, so let's just make the group. So we're going to do add group. Rerun the same command, so now it's part of auto login. We're also going to add ALSA as a group to both playback and to root. So we're going to do add group, playback, ALSA. Again, so we'll do add group, ALSA, rerun the same command, do the same thing for root. Save that out. And let's actually just try running LightDM. Starting display manager, let's see what it's doing. If we ever got off of that single line. And we still got the flashing box in the upper left-hand corner. So let's do a full reboot again. But it says it's not actually loading the display device. So we'll have to see how that goes. It's churning away. I hear the fan spinning at max speed. Let's switch back over here. Just watch it boot. So we see it doing things. See what we get. Still a flashing box. So let's actually look at messages. So we'll go back over. We're going to log in to SSH once again. Let's do tail-f /var/log/messages. So child command line, supervised daemon, so it keeps exiting. So it's doing return code of 1. And it looks like it's going to mark it as crashed. So if we actually Control C out of that and we do /etc/netd/lightdm status, it says it's stopped. So we do see that it crashed out. So it's saying daemon warning, etc. So let's actually just run it from here and just do lightdm. Okay, failed to get list of login seats. So error service unknown name org.freedesktop.login1 was not provided by any service files. So let's actually search that, because that could not be helping. It looks like it's a timestamp, but I can't really read it. So let's search this. Reading through this, let's see. Xorg, etc. So it's talking about a greeter. Oh, and it looks like it didn't even it potentially didn't even install it. Let's actually see if that's the case. So let's search for light DM stuff. So let's do apk search light DM, and we do see the GTK greeter there. So let's do apk add light DM GTK greeter. It says it's installed. So we should have everything installed that we need. Let's try just running it once more. Service unknown. I'm just curious, because there's an OpenRC variant as well. Looks like that was also installed. So let's search for this instead, because it could be possible that that other message is generic across multiple errors. So, okay. Yeah, he's trying to be one of those people. But again, we use the automatic configuration in order to do it, so we don't actually know the specifics of what it did. But yeah, I hate people like this, just for the record, who decide to answer and just be derriers is what we're going to call it. So he's looking at the share dbus system service org free login 1, etc. So elogin d. So we could actually check that as well and just see. Yeah, it's not found. So let's just do vi, see if we can find the equivalent. Because again, the packages are the same across multiple systems, but the pathing to configuration files, things like that, is not necessarily. Let's see what we got. That's console kit, so it's not. So it doesn't actually have anything in there, so what's it looking for? So login D, seats. So let's put the entire error here, because it does look like it is a generated error. Let's see if we can get somebody who's helpful. Systemd for VNet. So elogin D keeps coming up, so let's try adding that. Elogin D is actually for graphical escalation for privileges. So let's try that. We don't technically need it for this, by the way, because we're not actually going to be escalating within the GUI, but I do know what that is, so let's see. Now let's just try it. We didn't get an error. Let's see what we get. And we get nothing. And I think it's because it went to sleep. So let's go back over here. Let's wait for it to come back. There it goes. We're going to see out of that. We're going to do reboot. Okay, let's go back over to 3 and see what we get. Starting up now. Can we make it past the blinking box? Because then let's try some actual generic specific searches. Switching back over to the computer really quick, let's open up the web browser again. Let's do just specifically searching for issues relating to the setup desktop environment. So let's do Alpine Linux, XFCE, does not load. That's interesting. Oh, we could try this. So start XFCE4. So we'll log back into our SSH and just see if that gives us any errors. It did give us some errors. Let's see what it got. So X server connection refused. It is referencing Xorg. Right, which is the Xorg server up here, which exited out unexpectedly. It does have a log file. So let's see what the log file says. We're not doing -f because it's not running anymore. It says no screens found, server terminated with one closing file. And that looks like the exact same thing that's printed here. So it does give us a wiki that we can look at in terms of making sure that Xorg is configured correctly. It's supposed to be configured by default, but there is another option, which is we can do setup Xorg base. Okay. Let's try the same thing again. So that didn't work. It was worth a shot because it is low-hanging fruit, but let's go here and actually see if we can find something. And we're going to see why we're going to do something else because of it. Let's see. It just takes us to the main page, which is pretty useless for us. So we're going to do Alpine Linux. Xorg. Let's do Pi 5. See if anybody's written anything about this as of yet. Or actually, let's do XFCE install. This is not specifically for the Pi 5. Let's make sure dbus is still started. Already been started. Enable start display manager. And it's just going to put it all down here. So this is actually doing the installation manually. And that is always an option as well. So we could actually do that. They did it on a Core i7 though, and I do know it works there. So let's just do Raspberry Pi. All right, and this one has it for 64-bit Alpine Linux. From Maxo Call. So let's see what we got here. He's using the Raspberry Pi 4, but he's using the 64-bit OS. He did change his GPU memory amount, but I don't think that's going to affect its ability to be able to start. So he did set up Alpine, which we did. He chose to set up wireless, which is fine. He actually did APK upgrade. We didn't do that yet. Let's try that. But we did just download it, so it didn't actually look like it updated anything that was related to any of the interfaces that we're concerned about. But we will commit those. So let's do lbu commit-d. Go back to the tutorial, see what we got. Can we make it persistent? So desktop. So Alpine desktop meta package includes XFCE4. Let's make sure that's installed. I think he may have meant setup desktop, so that may just be an error. He's choosing to edit as wheel. He's also modifying his xorg.conf. So let's try that as well. Oh, it doesn't look like it's even configured, which is unusual. I think that may be a bug in the 64-bit variant of the actual setup desktop package. But we can try it. Let's see what we got. I'll copy it using this just to avoid anything else. I'm going to hit I to insert, right-click, escape, WQ, and let's try start X again. And let's see, still no screens found. And I'm curious if this could be, let's see, we see Jay Marshall. Hey Greg, glad to see you're doing one of the, one as I was thinking the same thing for a Pi 4, but also want to include and select web-hosted vids. So yeah, this is something where it's realistically possible to add any format that you wanted as VLC. And in this particular case, we're only doing hard drive videos, just as far as the playlisting. But technically, you can also add it using rerunning the command for VLC and adding web videos, adding anything that you want that VLC can support to be able to do it. It'll show up in the same playlist and you can remote control it. It's really, I like it. I do have one that's actually fully working. Let me show that to you really quick. So, and oh, what did I set as the password? So this is the installation that I currently have, and I'll be able to show you the video. But this one's actually running on an Intel machine, and it is working. But this is the default actual view. And what we're doing is I'm just choosing a particular directory, and from there being able to actually play it out. So for example, right now I have a video queued and we can go over to Playback. All right, and I'm just going to click it to play it. Switch back over to the PC. All right, and this is actually from one of the previous videos. So I did put over like a previous recorded thing, put a logo overlay and things like that on top of it. But I can scan through, you know, be able to just play. I can pause it, things like that, or I could switch the video. So like I could go to my old intro, which I haven't played in a long time, and be able to just play that out. And then the nice thing is, so what I have it as the default behavior. I'm sorry, this is probably pretty loud. I apologize if that blew your ears off. I just realized I probably didn't set the audio level for that. But short form is it will pause automatically when it loads the item from the playlist, but it can actually automatically cycle through them and also loop the playlist, whatever you set in the command line as far as options. And then also it will pause on the last frame in the way I have it set. So the idea is that it doesn't immediately unload and then you're left with whatever the desktop is. And I think that's just a cleaner presentation mechanism to be able to do it. So, but going back over to KVM, so it's all controlled through here, and pretty much this will update. There's other options here in terms of doing the loop, repeat, everything. So let's see, we could try that. So I did try start X, and this is the error that we're currently getting. And Will the Thrill, I see you there as well. Thank you for watching and joining. So let's just try. Let's see what we actually have here. Right, so we have UDEV and everything else like that, which is already started. Oh, is it started? It has already been started. That would have been a thing. We have loopback, functions, first boot. That's not it. Because really it is just these base things plus LightDM. Let's just try LightDM again. And still says the failed to get list of seats from login D. And if we do the start X again, it's showing that we don't have the display. So let's see if we can get the display. Because obviously if we do like apk add xrandar, right, and this is just a graphical way to control your screen resolution, everything else like that. But obviously it can't open the display. We can do display equals :0 to run it, but it still won't be able to open the display. Will the Thrill says, I'm looking into using a Pi to stream a local IP camera as an RTSP stream accessible via the internet. So yeah, that's actually a really good way to be able to do it. So like Earth cams, things of that nature, kind of work under that principle. If you are going to send it over the top on the internet, if you're doing just point-to-point, make sure that you have security enabled in the ways that you want. So having some form of middle server, or at least at the source, that's able to authenticate the user is always a good practice. Otherwise, people tend to scan the internet for RTSP streams that are unsecured and look in on them. And let's see. So the display variable being set for the actual start, so we can try that, but I don't, technically the display variable actually feeds back into what StartX is actually doing. So because StartX isn't running, it doesn't have a server to be able to connect to that display, but we can try it. and we still get the same thing, no screens found. I don't think we tried searching this yet. Noobs. That's a good idea. LSPCI or GREEP VGA. And pretty much this is just going to give us a physical list of our hardware. We don't have LSPCI, so let's do APK add LSPCI. APK search LSPCI, and I think it's Linux utils. Let's see. PCI utils. And Will the Thrill says, thanks, I'll be using it to upload a camera on a street to a cloud LPR, or I can't actually read it, it's blocked by an emoji provider. Anyway, sorry for the deviation. No worries, it's all good. I appreciate the interaction and also the questions and everything. It makes it a lot more fun, you know, doing all of this. So let's do the LSPCI. We'll actually just scroll back, or VGA, and we have nothing. Let's just do LSPCI. There's nothing here. Let's look for a driver. I think we have a driver issue here. Says it includes it. Just for sake of argument, I have a Raspberry Pi 4 here. I want to try that and just see, because the different kernel actual code to make it run. Right, so I have an 8GB Raspberry Pi 4, and technically speaking, because we're using hardware for all of this, I'm just gonna unceremoniously unplug this, and the connectivity is the same. We'll move over the SD card, which I just dropped on the floor. And let's see what we get, because if this is in fact just a bug that we're experiencing, I feel like the entire time I've tried to do this whole project, and not just here, but like with the, I hit an edge case bug on the Intel machine too. And the main issue that I had there was that there was an HDCP 2.2 output after the driver loaded. But before that, it was HDCP 1.4. And the issue with that is that 1080p is the only resolution that has a difference in terms of the EDID settings. Total edge case, I did figure it out. I had to get a physical hardware HDCP EDID converter, but let's see. So right now it's loading. I do notice it's not actually showing the boot code, and I'm slightly concerned about that. Jay Marshall said, what does the OG say? We did look at the log, and I know he meant to say log, but we did look at it. It says the same thing that was on the screen when we were actually trying to start it manually. And you notice something here? So we just boot. We did nothing. We did nothing on the, and it's just the Pi 4. And notice how it just booted. So something is amiss in terms of how they've compiled the kernel on Alpine Linux for the Pi 5. So unfortunately, we're going to have to continue with the Pi 4 for now, because I think that it's going to be a lot more fruitful. So, you know, we see everything. Now, something we do notice is that the underscan is currently set, so we will have to turn that off in the user CFG file as well. So let's just do that really quick. We're not going to do it through here. We're still going to do it through our other machine because we need escalation privileges. And currently we are logged in as Playback. So the auto login also worked, which we did set. So we'll set that up in a second so we have the underscan corrected. But first, let's set up the environment, just because right now it's a little messy. If you saw this on the background on like a giant projector showing a film or something, you know, it would be really, really kind of distracting. So let's set out of this. We're going to go over to our desktop settings, and we're going to set our wallpaper. Will the Thrill, I appreciate it. I appreciate it for subscribing. Yeah, I just browsed your channel, definitely got a new sub. I'll be watching a ton of this stuff. I saw your channel page, can't wait to talk again soon. I definitely appreciate it. I technically will be streaming again tomorrow at 1 a.m., which is my usual stream time. I tend to work nights, so I'm much of a night owl. So, yeah, definitely join in for the streams. I do them every week, generally, unless there's something coming up. And Jay Marshall said, yay, my target platform, boo, your title is wrong. That's true. I know, I'm going to have to change that after the stream. So, you know, it's one of those things where anytime you have new hardware, it's going to be, I'm going to find a way for some reason to get the edge case. So, but when you push the envelope, that tends out to be how it turns out to be. So under style, we're going to choose none, okay, for our actual desktop background. And pretty much we're going to be setting the background to black, but we could also, if we wanted to, set this up as a logo or something else like that as well. And let's see. Oh, thanks, Will. I appreciate that you're a night owl. I hope to see you again as well. So, and Jay Marshall, same thing. So hopefully you guys become regulars. I definitely appreciate the help and the conversation. So we made the background black. And we want to also hide the menus. So up top, we have this menu. If we right click on it, we can actually go to panel and then panel preferences. And that will let us deviate from the actual theme that we currently have set. So we can go to appearance. We're currently set to dark mode. And instead of doing system style, we're going to do solid color and set that also to black. It's going to make it hard to read the text, but you'll see it'll actually work out just fine. So we see it still shows up here, and when we hover over things, they'll actually show up. But there's two things here that we see. It's not minimizing on its own, and we see the workspace selection. We don't want the workspaces to show up, so we're going to go over to items. We're going to do workspace switcher, and we're going to do remove. It's going to confirm with us, and now that's no longer a problem. So already, quite a bit cleaner. So let's go back over to display and automatically hide panel. We're going to set this to always. Right? So when we mouse over it, it's going to expand. When we actually pull our mouse away from it, it's going to go away. Okay? So we see that there, and it just kind of hides. Now, when we turn off overscan, things like that, that actually should fall outside of the viewable area on most devices. But we're going to do the same thing over here on the bottom dock. Panel. We're going to do panel preferences. Same procedure, we'll set to always. We'll go to appearance, solid color, and we will set that to black. And Jay Marshall said, I've seen some implementations that just use the frame buffer and no display manager or window manager, but wonder if that would cause audio problems. So it actually is funny that you mentioned that. So I did try that, and the issue that I ran into with just running either Xorg or actually trying to do FFmpeg direct to the frame buffer for video is that the frame rate was only updated when the cursor would blink. So it technically, if you go into the actual frame buffer, I'm going to switch back over to our machine so we can look at that. But that is actually a really good point, because originally I did want to do that, and I want to have it be able to work on all of the Raspberry Pis, everything else like that. So if we go over here, we're still logged in, and FB set is, I don't know if I have it installed. Let's see. Oh, it's not running. 1 minute. It doesn't know it's not logged in yet. Did it change IPs? Let's see. It did. 138. Oh, because we changed devices, of course. All right, let's switch back over to the computer. 138 is our new device. All right, so I don't think we have it installed. Let's see. So we do. But you see how in the mode, 1920 by 1080 but -0, so the actual update rate is 0 hertz. So it requires an explicit command in order to get it to update. Now, I have been able to actually kind of force it. And Nala is a huge fan of frame rate discussions, but if you do FB set and then you do 1920 by 1080, or technically the command is FB set. I'll get the mouse out of there. So 1920, 1080, and actually this needs more stuff. So -FB /dev/FB0. And then -G, and then you would do 1920, 1080, 1920, 1080. And what that is your screen resolution, but then also your frame buffer resolution. And then you would do like 16 for 16-bit depth. If you run that one time, it will go to like 5 frames per second. If you run the same command a second time, nothing changes, and suddenly you'll get like 20 frames per second. I have no idea why it does that, but it does work, and you can actually use FFmpeg with it. But what I found is with full frame rate video, you still get choppiness, and it doesn't use hardware acceleration appropriately, so you get tearing within the frames. So that's the reason why I wasn't able to use it. But Jay Marshall, you said you'd be the only one on the block that has a 60 Hz cursor flash. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. It would be a little tough to use, I think, but at the end of the day, that would have been an awesome option because we could have done the whole installation in like 100 megs of space. It would have loaded instantly. It would have been glorious. So, but let's get back to finishing up the configuration on this. So we do have this, but we have our desktop icons, and probably could have done this earlier. Let's go back to here. We'll go to icons. At the bottom where it says default icons, let's just uncheck these. And now we see we have a pretty clear desktop. Like, it's just showing a black screen. The mouse still shows up, but VLC will actually take care of that as part of the launch. So we're happy with this. So let's actually get the rest of our stuff configured. Switching over here, I'm going to take our USB thumb drive, right, that we want to store our actual videos on. I'm going to plug that into a USB 3 port on the Pi 4. Okay, made it in. So let's see. So let's do, let's just check dev, make sure it actually showed up. /dev/, and it should show up as an SD device. So let's see, SDA. So it does show up. It's not formatted. It has nothing on there right now. So let's actually initialize that. So we're going to do fdisk, and we will type it correctly, and then do /dev/SDA. All right, so right now it has nothing. We'll do M for help, but we're going to create a new partition table, which should be N. We're going to do primary, because we're only going to do one partition, so it makes sense and it's small enough. If it was bigger, you know, we'd have to do GPT anyway. So partition 1 helps if I type the number. We're going to use first sector and last sector as defaults because it'll use the entire drive. If we do P, we will see, oh, we didn't create the actual partition yet. We're going to do N, excuse me. Yeah, N for new partition. And we're going to do partition primary. We're going to do 1. Oh, it's already defined. Oh, that is our partition, SDA1. I didn't read it. So we're going to write that out using W. Should refresh everything and exit. And now if we do ls/dev/sd star, we'll see 2 entries, so we have SDA1. So now what we want to do is let's format it something nice. So we'll do ext4. So let's do, first, let's make sure we actually have it. So it's makefs, and we only have vfat installed. So let's do apk search, and you will see why I'm searching this, but we'll do makefs.ext4. And it's e2fs progs. So apk add e2fs progs. That will install, and then we can use ext4. So let's do makefs.ext4/dev/sda1. You know, not a very complex command. I think it's ext4 is really nice because it is journaled. You know, it's a little more resilient, just like NTFS, to unexpected removals. So if you're doing a hard reboot on the actual Pi, it shouldn't corrupt the file system. If you use more simplistic ones, or especially with FAT32 outside of the file system limitation, it could cause you problems with doing an unexpected reboot. So just something to keep in mind. And this still isn't the fastest hard drive. Part of the reason why I want to use the Raspberry Pi 5 is there's the potential to be able to use NVMe in the future. And I think that is certainly something that, you know, hopefully they work that out soon, and I'll definitely keep everybody posted if I can get that working. But, you know, it's always worth trying. You got to try stuff, otherwise you can't find those bugs, or you'll never make anything, which is worse. So now that we have this, we have to mount it. And the way I want to mount it is using the actual fstab file to be able to make sure that it automatically mounts at boot. So I don't know if I have block ID installed. We do. So ext4 down here, we have a UUID. I don't think that's the UUID I want, but we could also just do it by name. So in this particular case, I know the hardware configuration isn't changing, but generally you'd want to do it in a more absolute way. But for brevity, let's do etc fstab. We're just going to call it by name. So down here, we're going to do /dev/sda1. And we're going to have to make the directory that I'm defining here, but we're just going to put it in anyway. We're going to do ext4, and we're going to do defaults 0, 0. We will save that out. Let's make that directory, and /media storage. Alright, so now that we've created it, if we were to reboot the computer now, it would go away. So we want to add it to LBU. And we have to do something special because it's an external drive, and we don't want to save the contents of that external drive every time we run LBU. It'll take forever. So we're going to do LBU add /media/storage. All right, again, I'm not using the slash at the end. And then we're going to do LBU exclude /media/storage with the slash at the end, and then put the star. So we want to save the folder itself, but none of the child files within it. And then we can do LBU commit -d, and if we do LBU list, we do see storage is the only thing that's in there. Granted, there's no files in there, so, you know, maybe that argument is not great, but it is certainly something, you know, got to keep that in mind. So now we should set up Samba. Okay, so let's do apk add Samba. And I believe it's just Samba. So it has the server instance right there. So let's actually set up our configuration. So we're going to do vi/etc/samba smb.conf. Now this one's fun because there's quite a bit that's already available here that is entirely useless to us. So scrolling down, We do not want our home directories listed, so I'm going to hit I to insert. We're going to comment this out. We're going to follow the same format, so it looks like we knew what was going on originally. Assuming I can type. Scroll down here, printers is the other one, right? Because we don't have any printers attached to this device, and it's not a print server, so why would we want to share printers? But at the very bottom, let's add our own share. And we're going to use this stuff as a template, but we'll define it individually. And we're going to call this storage. Okay, so keep the formatting the same. We'll do comment. Actually, we'll say playback server. And that will show up when we actually try and log in, which I think is a nice touch. Path. We'll actually not want to make this the root. And the reason is for permission's sake, because when we log in, we're not going to be logging in as root necessarily. So just something to keep in mind as well. So we're going to do /etc media mmc blk, storage. And then we'll do videos. And we could call that the same thing. But let's keep going. So videos, then we're not going to do valid users because we want everybody to be able to do it. Public, we don't care about. We're going to do writable, yes. And we're going to do create mask. And in this particular case, we're going to do 0777. We could do 755 as well. That is another option. Actually, let's do 755. Let's see if it works. And then we're going to do browsable equals yes. I'm just going to add a new line to the bottom just to make sure it's good. And let's escape that. Let's do /etc/initd. And let's do Samba. Let's do start. It did start successfully, so the configuration is valid. We are going to also add this, so we'll do rc update, add Samba default, and it did not type the T. I swear I typed it, so just kidding. So let's see. So now it's going to start with the system, but nobody's ever going to be able to log in because we didn't create the directory and we also didn't add any users. So let's create that directory. We'll do make dir /media storage, and let's do videos. Perfect. Now the directory exists. Let's make sure it's writable by everybody. So we're going to set it to 777 permissions. So let's do chmod 777 /media storage videos. And just for fun, it should automatically propagate. There's no files in there, but we are going to do a -r. All right, so, and that's on our persistent storage, so we don't have to LBU that, but we will for the config. So now everything should be set to start up, but now we have to actually set up our users to be able to log into it. So there's SMB PASSWD. Now we have to do this for each user that we want to be able to log in. So we'll do playback as our user, right? We don't necessarily want to add root for this because they would have access to everything. Let's just do playback, keep it as a restricted user, make life easy. Type in our password. And failed to find entry for user playback. Excellent. So I believe we have to add the group as well. So let's do add group. Playback SMB. Or Samba. Oh, we need to check that. Let's cat the groups. So /etc groups. So we have ALSA down here. We have auto login, which we created earlier. Playback. I don't see anything for Samba. So let's look up a reference for this really quick. So we go over here. Let's do Alpine Linux Samba setup. Right, so we did this. We added all of this. Well, we added some of that because we don't want all of it. Oh, we didn't do -A, so I was trying to update. That was my mistake. I'm overcomplicating this. Let's see. There we go. So now it edited because we told it that we wanted to add it and not update it. But it has a file in a weird place. And I need to make sure I know where it is. So where does Samba... So user local private. I don't know if that's accurate, so let's just check it. Doesn't look like it. So user share. Maybe it's not. Actually, a better search term for would have been SMB PASSWD. Location Alpine Linux, and I think I did search it before. I don't think the AI is accurate just because of it's going to be using other OSs. Right, so here, because var lib samba. Okay. So let's check that. ls/var lib samba. Right, and then we do see everything there. So we want to save everything that is currently in here. So let's do that. So we're going to do lbu add. And let's do lbu list and confirm. Right, var lib lbu samba. But notice how private has a number of different things here. So under the message sock folder. And those are potentially going to change on the fly, so it could cause issues when we reboot. So let's actually exclude that particular directory as well. So let's do lbu exclude. We do have to add the slash at the beginning just because of the way it displays. And we're going to put the star once again. Because again, we don't care that that directory exists. Let's do lbu list, make sure that everything is as we expect. And that looks a lot cleaner. So it's just saving the databases, everything else like that. And that's what's modified by that, so we want to save it. So let's do lbu commit-d. Then let's try and log into it and maybe load some files. So we are 138. So we're going to do \\\. I don't know that we started Samba after that. Okay. So now it's started. Let's go back over here. Okay, it's asking us for a login. We'll do playback. Super secure password. And we see our storage directory. Perfect. And there's nothing here. Let's just dump in a file. So let me actually open another thing here because I do see it. So these are also the videos that we did a video review that kind of spawned the this as a thing. We're just going to copy it over, and it says we do not have enough space. So it doesn't have write permissions right now. So something is wrong. Something is amiss. So let's see. And our properties says that nothing exists. That also could be an error in our configuration. So let's actually look. Right, so we do df-h. We do see it's not mounted. Okay. So that was slight oversight on my part, but let's... You may have noticed that earlier. We're going to empty this folder, because when we try and mount it, it's going to say that the folder has stuff in it. But we're going to leave the folder itself. So we're going to do star, but we're going to do a -r. Right, so now the folder's empty. Now let's do mount-a, because we added it to the fstab folder, but I never mounted it. Right, it should now mount. We're going to do df-h. We do see it is now mounted, and it has 30 gigs, which is plenty of space to store the files that we were just trying to store, I think. So let's see. We do have to make the directory again for videos. All right, so now we should be set. So chmod once again. And let's do the -r just because I like that. Perfect. And it took a long time, so it must be working. Let's see. So let's try and copy everything over. I'm just going to refresh this once. Because again, the path should still exist. If we do properties once again, it still says 0 bytes, so I'm slightly concerned about that. So we may have another configuration issue. We'll see that as we go. So let's try write, copy over the files, and it is copying even though it had 0 bytes available. It's amazing. So nice thing is that, so this is actually going through Wi-Fi. It's going through like 6 network hops in order to get to this Pi for random reasons. But at this point, it is going through copying all of the content that it needs. We'll let that chug away. It's not going to affect our ability to be able to continue programming this. So now we've got our SMB share set up. Next thing we want to do is actually set up VNC. So let's do apk add x11 VNC. And I believe that's all one word. It will tell us if it's not. So now we see VNC, x11 VNC is installed. We're going to, I believe, add a few more. So let's do apk search VNC. And that's not the case. So let's configure it. So we're going to do vi/etc. Oh. Oh, we may not have to. Actually, no, it's all runtime. So here's pretty much what we're going to do with this. So I'm just going to do a copy just so that way I can make life easier. Let me think. Yeah, I could do that. So let's just log into that using the right mouse. All right, so this is the one that I've already written, and the code should actually be compatible because, again, it is just ash. So we're going to log in as root. Perfect. And let's do... So I have two files, bin.vnc, or /bin/vnc.sh, which is the actual executable, and then a service accompanying it. So the service starts the sh file, and what it is it's very short. It's just this right here. And I'll read it as we actually enter it. So let's just do vi/bin/vnc.sh, I for insert, and we'll paste it. So pretty much what we're doing is we're going to wait in a loop, because when we log in, or at least when we start up the machine, there's not going to be the display ready. You know, just like the errors that we were seeing before, if we were to start this too early, it could actually launch a separate desktop from the one that is physically showing on the output. So because of that, we're going to wait until it logs in. And the way that we do that is by checking our PS, which is our running services. -aux gives us the full details of users, things like that. So we search by Playback, which in this case will show up as users, and then we search for XF desktop, which will actually be the thing that launches, that displays the desktop. So I think that's an easy way to be able to do it. And pretty much while that equals 0, because we're counting the number of lines, we're going to sleep 1 second and try it again. So once it does find it, then it will move on and it will run a loop for X11 VNC. It will use display 0, which is our output, and it will set a default password. You can pretty much add whatever options you want, but I think considering what this is doing, it's on an isolated network, it's not going over the top, this is perfectly fine. And the reason I put it in a while loop is because if it exits unexpectedly, for an unknown reason, I want it to sleep 1 second and try again, so I don't have to reboot the whole machine or it becomes inaccessible. You know, because obviously if you're trying to administrate it or make a change, there's probably a reason for it. So maintaining access to it, I think, saves a lot of frustration down the road, and that's an easy way to do it. So we will write this out, and let's go ahead and give that executable permission. So chmod +x. And we'll do /bin/vnc.sh. We'll also edit to LBU. And let's just commit that. It is still saving right now, but notice how it came up with those message.sock files again. It's supposed to be ignoring that entire thing, so let's make sure that that directory is actually excluded and not just the contents, because it looks like it added whatever was new. And also we should make sure that the storage volume is also excluding appropriately, because it looks like it is not. Because we did successfully copy over everything, but I'm afraid that it's trying to copy everything over otherwise. Is it still copying? It is. It's just going very slowly. So let's see who wins first. So that did complete, and just for reference, it is about 4 gigs of files. It's not very much, as far as the actual grand scheme of things. But this does appear to be trying to save it into LBU. So clearly there's some misconfiguration here that we have to fix. And one way to do that is, let's go in here, duplicate, let's actually, I want to see what it looks like. So let's do top. I don't know that that's showing us a lot of information. It's not taking up a lot of processes. Alright, that wasn't as interesting as I was hoping it would be. But let's do Oh, it came back. Maybe that's why. So let's do LBU list again. Right, so storage doesn't look like it's actually being included, but there's definitely some other stuff that is. So definitely this is still an issue. And I think that some of these may have had some significant data because of the file transfer. Everything else looks pretty good otherwise, and storage looks like it's operating as expected. So let's actually exclude that. So we'll do LBU, exclude, / paste, and let's just do this. LBU list, make sure that nothing involving that folder is present. And it's not. And let's see if it takes a reasonable amount of time to save. That's much better. So that was the reason why it was doing it, is because of all of the data that we were transferring was showing up inside of those sock caches for Samba. So, and we definitely want to keep this small. It should only be a few kilobytes of actual data inside of our LBU file, and that makes it a lot more portable as well. So now we've installed our back to VNC. So let's also copy over our init file for that as well. And that's 114, so let's do... make this full screen just to make the text cleaner. So let's do / etc / initd / VNC. Right? Again, pretty short. The only thing is on stop all, it will kill VNC .sh as well as the x11 VNC. Because we have those while loops, things like that, we don't actually have a checking for an exit status or anything else like that. So it does kind of make it weird, but I have the or true, so if it's not running for some reason, so like let's say there's an error with VNC, at the time it actually tries to call it, if we didn't have the or true, it would recognize that as a bad exit status and pass that through on the exit status for init. So if we do or true, that is always an exit status of 0, and that makes it so it exits properly. So let's go back over to here, go to our device, let's go vi / etc / initd on VNC, and paste in our contents. Add a new line at the end, because I like that. Right, we don't have to change anything here, it's referencing the other file. I'll make a GitHub that has these files as well, and hopefully some instructions, just based on whenever I get a chance to do it, to kind of cut through the noise of the issues that we were having with the Pi 5 earlier, to be able to perform this installation. And theoretically, outside of driver definitions, things of that nature, it should be applicable to pretty much any hardware that can run Alpine. And also any variant, so any architecture, anything else like that. So let's do that. Let's do chmod to make it executable. I didn't put the D. And LBU add. And let's do LBU commit -d. Oh, actually, wait, let's do RC update add. VNC default. Save that out, and let's start it. Perfect. I don't know if it's actually working. It didn't give us any errors, though, but it technically shouldn't. Let's stop it really quick, and I'm going to do... let's just run it, so vnc.sh. Right, and we see it does wait, so it is in fact running as expected. So we can start that back. Now, what I've actually liked for a VNC viewer is Real VNC. I don't currently have that installed just because it saves the addresses to everything that you have. So let's do Real VNC viewer download. It's available for all operating systems, which is really nice. Do that. We're not going to create an account. We're just going to leave it as is. We could, and it would actually transfer between machines. It's nice. We are going to allow it to do things. No desktop shortcut. Install, do things. Yay. Wow, that's amazing. So let's close that. We will do VNC. It's going to ask if we always want to do this. I'm going to do that. You're probably not going to get that prompt because that's my antivirus. We are going to skip all of this by clicking something. Use Real VNC Viewer without signing in. Now let's just add 192.168.15.138. And it does try and connect. No username. It's just whatever password we had set in that file. Right? And we see storage is now displayed. Right? So we got everything. We can see this. It's obviously not going to be full frame rate when we're playing back video or anything else like that. But it is certainly something that, you know, you can at least get an understanding of what it's doing. So we're going to go back to desktop settings. We're going to go to icons, and we scroll down here. We see removable drive. We're going to uncheck that as well, just so we're back at a blank desktop. And I think it looks very clean. So we'll close that out, but we could potentially use that to be able to look at things simultaneously as we're going forward, especially when we're hitting play controls. So now that we're actually at that point, let's get our audio working, right? So if we actually, let me just keep this loaded. So if we actually look up top, oh, it's there. So over here, and it's difficult to see, especially with me with the lights, but short form is there's no audio, right? So let's make sure our ALSA is actually registered to start. Whoops. Already started, perfect. So Pulse Audio is actually the other application that we need. And pretty much this is the last set of applications because everything else appears to be working as expected now. So let's do APK search, Pulse Audio. Right, so we have a few things here that we're definitely going to need. So we're going to need Pulse Audio ALSA. So let's do APK add, and I'm just going to pretty much select it and paste it. We are going to do our OpenRC, although we may not use it. We're going to do our utils. We're going to do our zero comp. Oh, I need to add spaces. All right, zero conf, which should auto configure it. And then we're gonna do our XFCE4 plugin, which gives us the ability to be able to control it from the GUI. So let's hit enter on that. And I believe we may need to give it permissions, things like that, but we will find out momentarily. Let's go over here, see if it shows up. It may not because we're already logged in. We may need to log in again. So we can actually go over here. If we made this full screen, it would work like normal. Yeah, actually, let's do this. Right, so we're up here, and it is not currently running. See how much easier it is to see on the actual local desktop. So let's log out and log back in. Perfect, and it hides everything. Oh, we didn't start it, did we? So let's do lbu commit-d, socket ignored, keyring. Actually, I want to get rid of that, so let's do lbu exclude /home/playback. And we're going to exclude the entire .cache directory. Again, same reason we got rid of the cache for Samba. Just, it's going to have stuff that's going to throw errors for no reason. So Pulse Audio. Let's actually look up a reference really quick just to make sure that we're not just spinning our wheels. And Pulse Audio is one of those things where it is ubiquitous once we get to this point across many variants of Linux. And it's nice because they have a an actual wiki for this. So we're going to do Pulse Audio wiki ELSA as well. I don't remember if we did that earlier. We did. Okay, just making sure. And let's make sure this I don't think we did. We did not. Okay. Bluetooth we don't want. Perfect. That's it. It does say Pipewire is the Pulse replacement, but in this particular case, we're just going to use Pulse. So, should be fine. So Pulse Audio is there, but if we actually try and run it, it's going to say that it wants to run it per user and not system-wide. And since we're logged in as root, that will run it system-wide. So realistically, let's do nothing and just load our actual launch config for our launch script for VNC. And let me take a sip of water. All right, so let me actually do it on here so we can just do a direct copy. /bin/playback.sh. This one's a little bit longer, but it kind of follows the same thing, and it has some probably unnecessary commands, which is xset s off, which is supposed to prevent the screen from going to sleep, xinput -- disable 12, etc. But it's got the full VLC command. We will need to check our ALSA audio device just to make sure that that is correct. ALSA audio channels, it says 6. That actually means stereo. Don't know why. Embedded video means no UI. Video on top obviously keeps it over anything else, so if there's a pop-up or something else like that, it should stay behind the video, and at least you'll be able, while you're playing or anything else, it should be fine until you can reboot the machine. Disable screensaver for obvious reasons. Mouse hide timeout is 10 milliseconds. So as soon as it starts playing anything, the mouse should go away. so that way it's not over top. HDTV fix, because we're going to be outputting at 1080 in this case, auto scale, so if it's 4K UHD, it's going to automatically scale down. If it's less than regular HD in this particular application, it will scale it up. Force Dolby Surround is equal to 2, which means it will force it not to be Dolby Surround. We want it to be PCM output, so it's HDMI compatible. Stereo mode equals 1. Don't know why it's there twice. I might have that there from trying different options. Roll equals video. We don't want any video title to show. We want no interactive elements. And we want it to stay in full screen. Now, here's the actual server that we're starting. So it's INTF HTTP, and then we set a password here. And there's no username. The username stays blank. It's just the password. And then here's where we set our actual, the way that it handles the files. So I have play and pause, right? So that way it's going to play the video and then pause at the end, instead of stopping or instead of exiting. It's going to also start paused, and there's different options. If you do VLC -H, it will give a litany of options that you can choose from. And then one instance means that if you launch this command line again, it will actually input whatever you put, like for example, additional media options, things of that nature for changes to the playlist. It will input it back into that same instance. And since we're using the default port, which is 8080, it's going to say that that port is in use since we already have it responding to it. So that is important to definitely keep in this particular command. Then we have playlist and queue, which is where it will add elements to the playlist opposed to replacing it. No media library, you could actually take this out and it would cache the locations of every piece of media that you've previously run. This could be really useful for doing streaming URLs. So if you actually go in, if you stop this particular service from running, and then you just launch VNC from the GUI and open your streaming URL, you could then close out of that and start the service again. It will start full screen, but it will show up with that stream as an option in your media library, potentially. So it's supposed to work that way. Then playlist tree, I think it just organizes everything better opposed to being individual things. Recursive expand means it will do the actual subfolders, and then the location that we want to start with. So if we specified a single video here, it would just start playing that video. But since I put a directory, it will actually recursively go through all of the folders within that particular directory, and that will make it so you have a pretty fleshed out thing. So anything we dump in videos in that share, it will actually populate as part of its playlist. And then some stuff to clean up after the fact, which also may be unnecessary since these things are unnecessary. But last thing I want to say, so it has the wait script, so the same wait script that we had in VNC, we have for VLC, just because, again, it's dependent upon the user being successfully logged in. And here we have pulse audio start. And the su-playback is just to change the user, so that way we're actually running under the correct user profile. Otherwise, we would potentially run into issues with permissions to access the display. So, I know that was definitely a litany of stuff to kind of cover there, but let's go over here. And let's create this file. So playback.sh. Paste it in, looks beautiful. We're not going to change anything in it because it doesn't really matter, but we will have to add xset and xinput, even if we're not using it, or we could just comment it out. But I think those are actually not really needed because they don't really work. And one of the things is if we go back over to here, So right, I'm back on Pi 5. If we go over to settings, we can actually set all of this up by default. So if we do display, we can see our resolution, everything that we can set here. You know, so everything can be set. We can also go to settings. And I believe either under desktop or appearance, we can actually set our power saving. Nope, I believe it is under appearance. Just so it never goes to sleep. And obviously, if we're displaying stuff, we don't want to see it go to sleep. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Let's just open up the whole settings manager. It has a search bar. Let's do power. Power manager. Right, we go to system. We never want to sleep. Again, Pi doesn't have a sleep mode, but it will turn this stuff off. Right, we don't want it to ever blank the screen. So that's that. So I would just set it through there. It's effective enough to be able to do it. And I believe screensaver may be another option. I probably should have just searched that. Yeah, I don't see it offhand. No, I don't think it's there. So I don't believe it has a screensaver enabled by default. All right, so let's go back over here, finish programming this, and actually run it. So we have that installed, so we can run it manually right now. So let's finish just by copying our final file. So we should, let's chmod this, /bin playback, and lbu add /bin playback. Final file. So vi /etc initd playback. It's not going to have auto completion because it doesn't exist. Let's go back over to our other machine. Let's clear this. And we will cat our /etc /initd playback. It does exist here. Excellent. Right, we're going to copy this out. Again, this is kind of the same thing as the VLC one was, except for VLC, so it stops, obviously, VLC and playback at the end. That's really the only difference. Paste that in. Write that out. We're going to do chmod +x /etc initd /playback. Then we're going to do lbu add /etc initd playback. Then we're going to do rc update, add, playback, default. And then we're going to do lbu commit -d. Let's start it. Up. Okay, and it did start successfully. What do we see on the other screen? We see absolutely nothing, and the reason is nothing is playing. So let's open up that VNC session just so we can watch them both on the same screen. But we're going to go over here to our web browser, and instead of opening up the demo one that I had from before, let's do 138, right? It's prompting us for our login. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is what it's currently set to. Okay? And again, we see kind of the same thing. We have our playlist, we have our videos. And then I have the three parts that we had from before. So we may need to restart in order to get audio, but let's just try this now. So I currently have part 1 loaded. I'm going to hit play, then I'm going to hit pause. Let's just take a look through VNC. Right, doesn't look like anything's here, but yes, I can. That's not what I wanted. I chose the wrong screen. Let's do... I'm trying to get both controls onto the same thing. Right, so I can go over to this time, and we see there's video here. Okay? It is actually full screen, but this has a scroll bar. And this is going to update at a very slow interval. So let's keep this playing, okay? And just to kind of show you the responsiveness, you know, it's as soon as I click it, anything else like that, it's going to do it. But let's go back over to something interesting. I'm doing some soldering. Wow. And let's go back over to our playback and see what it's doing. And we see we still have the issue with around the outside. And right now it looks like it's not currently playing. I don't remember if I clicked it and then didn't hit it, but let's go back over. Let's correct that. Well, it's doing things. It's getting a really bad frame rate right now, but that's okay. Let's try just correcting our screen so it's not scaling it in that way. And let's see what we can do. And it's possible that the Pi 4 may be underpowered for this application. I don't know if the codec that I used to actually record that is one of the hardware codecs that's available for VLC. So just something to keep in mind, we may need to change codecs or something like that to be able to do it. That is why I chose to use larger hardware for the actual custom build here, and why I was hoping to use the Raspberry Pi 5. But obviously the Pi 5 has some other bugs associated with its deployment in Alpine Linux that have to be corrected first. So let's do mount-o remount RW / media mmc blk0p1 user cfg.txt. I'm sorry, that's not it. Enter. I have to spell mount correctly. Okay, now it's able to do it. No file definition. Then we do vi / media mmc blk0p1 user cfg.txt. And let's set this to not overscan. Oh, and I believe my one of my cats wants to come in. And there he is. That's another project that I made, is actually a motorized opener for a sliding glass door. So let's actually just do a quick search on that. And I do believe that this is the actual value, so we are going to run with it. Over here, we are in insert mode, =1. Let's save that out. And let's just make sure everything is currently set and reboot. Let's go back over to KVM3. I am also going to open up the play controls, which you saw already on another machine, just so we can kind of look at it together. Oh, it probably helps if it's already started by that point. And I do believe it started. Let's see. Oh, no, it was still booting. Let's see. Will it blend? Okay, we have a desktop. I can get to the UI. Okay. And will this be massively underpowered after all of this work? The answer is yes. Yes, it will. It's very disappointing. So let's go back over to the computer really quick. Okay, we do expect that, even though it says it's unexpected. All right, so let's just see how many system processes it's using. And we currently see that VLC is using 3 full cores and is still not able to actually display it appropriately. We see Pulse Audio is running. Let's see, do we have audio coming through? We may not. Yeah, I don't see it coming through on the audio card, which means nothing. So, oh, because I don't have it selected. Let's switch back over. Do you have any audio playing? No, but it's not handling it well. That's really disappointing. And that could be related to a VLC actual, the way it's compiled. Just causing some problems in terms of not being able to use the hardware codecs or anything else like that. But I might have to do a follow-up on this and actually show it on a Intel-based device, because it does run better even with embedded graphics. And honestly, if you want it to run extremely well, use a dedicated graphics card. So that's also an option. But, and actually I'm curious, it could be something where, you know, with the Pi 5, you know, it may show up with graphics if we do actually use like a USB output or do the PCIe for an actual graphics card. So a little bit of a letdown, but I think it's, you know, we got through what we wanted to do. We didn't use the original hardware that we wanted, and that's part of the reason why I used the Raspberry Pi 5, was just because I knew it was going to be something. Oh, it could actually be, it could be the USB drive that I'm using. Because I just thought about it, there's a difference in the way that it actually accesses the USB 3. All right, so let's see this really quick. Let's just copy one of those files, and let's just copy it into RAM and see if we can play it from there. Let's do part 2, just because I know there's stuff there. And let's just do / /home / playback. No. Let's just do, where can I put it? Let's just put it in slash. Oh, I should put it in temp. I'll move it after it's loaded. Let's see. Everything's in RAM. Oh, I didn't want. I shouldn't. Just moved it. Let's see. Can we make this do things? All right, we're at 45%. Let's go vi/bin/playback. We're going to change our directory so it won't be correct, but you know what? It'll be a thing. And we're just going to do /temp. And let's just try restarting this. I'm not going to save it, but I am going to at least try it like this for now. Switch back over to KVM3. I'm going to go back over to the other computer. I'm just going to try launching it. Let's see how good we get. Okay, I'm going to refresh this. Okay, it did load, which is a good sign. Playlist, temp. Perfect. So we're going to do part 2. And let's just play it back and see what we get. And the graphics cannot handle it. And you can't even see it. What's it doing? Oh, the card froze. Let's fix that first. Hopefully you saw what I was doing. I don't know. So we have this. This is our final output, and it's terrible. After all of that work, the hardware is not powerful enough. It's okay. I'm still gonna try and keep an eye and just see if there's something that's resolved in terms of the ability to be able to run desktop on the Raspberry Pi 5. We could potentially do this through other OSs that probably would yield better results. Raspberry Pi OS, of course, coming to mind. But realistically, trying to make it as minimalist as possible, as well as being something that is, embedded to where there's no actuals. You can't modify the actual OS hard drive while it's running, and it runs from RAM. I think that's really the critical thing, because if you're going to use it for something, especially like a public presentation, house of worship, or something else like that, you don't want it to be unstable. And in this particular case, it is going to be very stable, but the output quality is going to be very bad, probably unless it's SD. And realistically, that's not going to look great when you put it on a big screen. But obviously, if we had more hardware, if we had a dedicated graphics card, or more advanced internal graphics, that would be an option. And since we're just using a Pi, our options are limited for that. But it is definitely doable. So, I think I could probably play around with the codecs a little bit. But, at the end of the day, it's the code remains the same. So we just have to drop something else in there and see what works. But, I think that's going to do it for today. So thanks for watching the stream today. I definitely appreciate everybody who commented down in the chat. And if you like the video, be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment down below. And if you know somebody who would like this content, be sure to share it with them. I'll appreciate it, and I hope they would appreciate it too. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Helps me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And, make sure you hit that notification bell. That way the next time we're getting extended. So until then, take care.